Hi kids, I'm Kamal.
I'm Selena.
And this is The City and Beyond. Here to help everyday people learn how to become everyday travelers. If this is your first time watching us, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. And if you're feeling a little frisky, click the little notification bell so you can stay up to date on all of our adventures.
And we will have weekly videos you don't want to miss out on.
If this is your first time watching us, you may not know this. If this is not your first time watching us, you should definitely know this. One of our favorite places to visit within the borders of the United States is New Orleans. We're going to give you our top 10 favorite reasons for why you should be visiting New Orleans if you haven't gone yet.
If it's not our favorite reason, then it's gonna be something we think you should know before you go.
Just so we're clear, this list is in no particular order.
And like Kamal says, let's get started.
The number one thing, as a Jersey boy who happens to be hitched to a city woman, I like to drive. She, on the other hand, is a huge fan of public transportation.
Yeah.
She rides the bus and the subways like nobody's business. And one thing that we both love about New Orleans is a rental car is not necessary. You can ride the trolley, you can get a jazz pass. A jazz pass goes anywhere from, I believe, 1 day to 3 days. If you get them, it works from the time of activation, and it will take you on the trolleys, it'll take you on the buses, and they pretty much take you everywhere around the city that you would want to go to.
Number 2, Bourbon Street is not the highlight of New Orleans. It's a nice place to visit, don't get us wrong, but it's not the only place you should spend your time. There are great neighborhoods throughout New Orleans that have tons of history, has a lot of bars, and great people. Oh, and don't forget about the food.
Number 3, food is the highlight. Now, if you don't know anything about New Orleans, here's a brief history. It's an amalgamation of French, Spanish, and Cajun cuisine all mashed into one. And don't forget, they're in the South and they love their barbecue as well. You can have flavors from all over the world within the confines of one city block. If there's anywhere outside of the New York City area that you want a culturally diverse palette of food for you to experience, New Orleans is definitely a place you need to visit.
And there's po' boys and crawfish and catfish and sausage. There's so many things. And if you're vegan or vegetarian, you can still find something good to eat. You need to see our New Orleans video from last year.
Number 4, you can drink everywhere on the streets in New Orleans, not just on Bourbon Street. A common misconception that we hear from all of our friends and family is, oh, but you have to go to Bourbon Street so you can just get a drink to go. That is everywhere in New Orleans. They even have places that give you frozen daiquiris to the drive-thru with alcohol in it.
If you're in the car, you have to keep the container closed, which means the lid can't be punctured by a straw. There's a whole thing about this online. Make sure you Google it before you go.
And don't forget to drink water. Remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Number 5, there are free walking tours on websites, and you should try it. That's really all I have to say about that. You can save money while traveling. That's what we keep telling you.
Most of these locations that you can do the free walking tours for, you'll typically find guides that are there, and if you don't feel comfortable going on the tour yourself, they will be more than happy to take your money from you. But there is definitely a huge library of walking tours of cemeteries and historical sites all over New Orleans for you to experience. Which leads us into number 6. The tours aren't boring if you have the right guide.
So we had a guide for the first time Kamal went to New Orleans, and we found it on our website. It was before Airbnb experience, and she was amazing. We're actually now friends with her. She just had a baby. Congrats. Because she was such a great tour guide, it was such an amazing experience. We definitely needed to make sure we had our walking shoes on, and we got a lot of information about New Orleans. So I even felt even more connected to the city. How about you?
It felt great to learn about all of the history because these just look like regular buildings, but they'll point out things like this one was in this TV show, this celebrity used to own it, this is what happened here, this is where a former president used to live. There's just so much, and the thing about it is New Orleans is kind of like a walking museum that you can just walk up and touch everything, so you kind of just take it for granted, but there's so much to experience and learn there, and if you have somebody that's really into it also, you kind of get engaged in it, and it feels like it's a natural thing. It's great.
Kamau likes the history more than I do, and even I get into it. Number 7, do not get a hotel or Airbnb in the French Quarter. You can if that's what you're interested in, but don't reserve it there just because it's available, or you thought, like, someone told you, oh, you'll have a great time. Yeah, you're gonna have a great time even when you're trying to go to sleep. It's a very happening area. Even like 12 p.m. in the middle of the day, you might hear a lot of noise in the street. There are times that it's calm, don't get me wrong. I've been there for, I think, 4 times now, and there are times that Bourbon Street is calm. But would I want to sleep there? Probably not, because the other people who are also sleeping in the same accommodations as you, those people might not be quiet either. And so just so you have a time to actually take a break, if you're trying to find like something relaxing or somewhere to go, like to relax destination wise, New Orleans is a great place to relax and take it easy and let your hair down. But you definitely want to make sure where you sleep at night is part of that equation.
Also, sometimes it's a little bit cheaper to not be there.
Basically what we're saying, don't poop where you sleep.
Number 8. Que ocho. Where you really want to go is the Garden District. In the Garden District is when you're going to really feel like you are in New Orleans.
Again, I've been to New Orleans a couple of times, and the first trip I took to New Orleans, I went to the Garden District for one day, and I finally felt like I was there. You see those beautiful houses that you see on television. You get even more locals and like local treatment, whether it's good or bad. Most of the time they're just being funny, but like you get to hang out and drink with those locals, and they give you tips about where to go, and it's awesome. Granted, there's also like little lizards running around the street and stuff like that, depending on what time of year you're going. But Garden District is beautiful. Magazine Street is like the Bourbon Street for that area, and it's also just as happening, probably more so for people who are like late 20s, mid 30s maybe, and it's really cool to have your kids with you to walk through Magazine Street. Garden District, you should go. Number 9. So a lot of people may tell you before you go on your trip, oh, you'll hear jazz played throughout the streets all day, every day, blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you, the first time I went to New Orleans, I didn't hear any music until I went to Frenchmen Street. And every single time I've been there after, that is where I hear the most jazz music being played. On Frenchmen Street, you will hear live bands also. On Bourbon Street, you'll hear like the top 20
top 20
songs, hits or whatever.
Folk music, essentially.
Yeah, or people karaokeing and stuff like that. Very rarely will you hear a lot of jazz music, but that does depend on the time of day, which is a big factor. It also depends on if there was a parade. It also depends if there's just like street performers who are just banging on like buckets and stuff. So, not to say you won't hear it on Bourbon Street, it's just not as present as Frenchmen Street. So,
if there is a place that you want to get a great Sazerac and jazz your face off, it's definitely Frenchmen Street. That is definitely, I would say, where the heart of jazz is in New Orleans. Don't at me.
Nice.
Number 10.
Jazz hands.
We made it to the end, kids. Number 10. It's kind of been sprinkled throughout the entire thing. It's sort of like Think and Grow Rich, where they say the secret is like throughout all the pages if you just pay attention. New Orleans is great for families. And that's families of all ages. You can take your parents, you can take your kids, you can take your teenagers, you can take your cousins. If you get along with them, you can take your best friends. New Orleans is pretty much for everybody.
Yeah.
And when I mean for everybody, I do mean everybody. They have a parade for everything under the sun every week of the year, with the exception of maybe 2 of them. And it's probably because they just need a break for a second. New Orleans is a party town, but it's not really a party. It's a celebration of everyone in every culture, every walk of life. So that was our top 10 list. Did we miss anything? Would you add anything? let us know in the comments below. Now, if there's anywhere that we've been already that you would like us to do another top 10 list for, or anywhere we're about to go, let us know. Maybe we'll do it. You can reach us at The City and Beyond on pretty much everything.
We will see you next week in our next video. Bye.